Mastering Enlightenment by David Russo. Most people who are drawn to a book like this are looking for something more peace, more clarity, more confidence, more meaning. For some, life looks fine on the surface, yet something feels subtly off. For others, the pull is quieter, a curiosity, a desire to revisit familiar ideas, or to deepen and reinforce what they already know. And sometimes, it's after doing everything that was supposed to lead to fulfillment, growth, success, spiritual learning, only to discover a quiet sense of incompleteness remains. This audiobook is not here to offer another ideal to chase. Mastering Enlightenment is not about fixing yourself, improving your personality, or achieving a permanent state of bliss. Much of what modern spiritual and self-improvement culture promotes about enlightenment actually reinforces the very confusion it claims to solve. When enlightenment is treated as a future achievement, it quietly assumes you are not already whole. Seeking begins there, and with seeking comes effort, striving, comparison, and disappointment. Mastering enlightenment is not about fixing yourself, improving your personality, or achieving a permanent state of bliss. Much of what modern spiritual and self-improvement culture promotes about enlightenment actually reinforces the very confusion it claims to solve. When enlightenment is treated as a future achievement, it quietly assumes you are not already whole. Seeking begins there, and with seeking comes effort, striving, comparison, and disappointment. The chapters that follow are not meant to be consumed as information alone. They are invitations to notice direct experience as it is, before the mind turns it into a goal or identity. You will be guided to look at awareness itself, to question the sense of a solid self, and to see how much suffering is created not by life, but by resistance to it. This is not a withdrawal from the world. Emotions will still rise. Challenges will still appear. Life will remain ordinary, messy, and unpredictable. What changes is the relationship to experience. When the constant reference to me begins to loosen, action becomes simpler, relationships clearer, and presence effortless. You don't need to believe anything here. You don't need to agree or reach a conclusion. The only invitation is to pause and notice what is already here. If you listen carefully, you may discover that what you've been seeking has never been missing, and if that becomes clear, there will be nothing to master, only life, unfolding freely, exactly as it is. Chapter 1. The Myth of Enlightenment. Before anything real can be recognized, something false must be seen clearly. This chapter is not about redefining enlightenment, it is about dissolving the confusion surrounding it. For many, enlightenment has become a fantasy, a flawless state of constant peace, free from fear, doubt, or pain. This image is quietly reinforced by spiritual culture and marketing, turning awakening into a future reward and present experience into a problem. When enlightenment is imagined as something out there, you are automatically placed in here, unfinished, lacking, unawakened. This is the first myth, that enlightenment is an achievement. From that assumption, effort arises. Practices, techniques, comparison, and striving follow. Yet seeking enlightenment only reinforces a sense of separation it promises to end. The search itself keeps the idea of a seeker alive. Another common misunderstanding is the creation of a spiritual identity. The ego simply changes costumes from successful or failed to awakened or conscious. Though it may appear refined, it still depends on comparison and validation. Awakening, however, is not about becoming special. It is deeply ordinary, so ordinary the mind often overlooks it. Enlightenment does not remove your humanity. Thoughts continue. Emotions arise. Personality remains. What falls away is the belief that there is a separate me at the center who must control, protect, or perfect life. Pain and fear do not indicate failure. Suffering is not created by emotion itself, but by resistance, the belief that experience should be different. Enlightenment does not eliminate feeling, it frees feeling from identity. What is being pointed to here is not acquisition, but subtraction. False assumptions fall away, that you are incomplete, that peace exists only in the future, that awakening belongs to someone else. For a moment, notice any effort to understand or reach something. See if it can soften. Clarity begins not with striving, but with seeing the myth for what it is. When the myth loosens, what remains is not an achievement, but a recognition, simple, quiet, and already here. Chapter 2. Consciousness. Before thought. Before any thought appears, something is already present. Before the mind names, judges, or plans, there is awareness. This chapter invites you to notice that directly, not as a concept, but as lived experience. Most of life is spent inside thought. A continuous narrative forms: who you are, what you need, what went wrong, what might happen next. Because thought is constant, it feels personal. Yet thoughts arise and disappear on their own. You do not choose the next one, but something remains. Awareness is the open capacity in which thoughts, sensations, emotions, and perceptions appear. It is not created by thinking and does not belong to the story of me. It is present before any identity forms. The mind often tries to understand awareness, but awareness cannot be grasped as an object. You don't observe it, you are it. The moment you stop defining it, it becomes obvious. Right now, sounds are heard. Sensations are felt. Thoughts may arise about these words. All of this is being noticed effortlessly. The noticing itself does not judge or interfere. It simply allows experience to be as it is. This reveals a crucial distinction. Thoughts are observed, emotions are observed, even the sense of I is observed. If something can be noticed, it cannot be what you fundamentally are. Thought creates the illusion of a central self by narrating experience after the fact. Awareness is already present before the story claims ownership. Recognizing awareness before thought does not make life passive. It brings freedom. Thoughts can function without being believed. The mind becomes a tool rather than an authority. You do not need to stop thinking. You only need to notice what is present before thinking happens. This recognition arises through relaxation, not effort. When awareness is seen as primary, life feels lighter. Experience unfolds without being filtered through constant self-reference. Peace is no longer something to achieve, it is what was quietly overlooked. Chapter 3. The Illusion of the Self. One of the strongest assumptions in human experience is the belief in a solid me, a thinker behind thoughts, a doer behind actions, a controller at the center of life. This chapter invites you to examine that assumption gently and honestly. Identity forms early. A name is given. Memories accumulate. Preferences, fears, and habits develop. Over time, these fragments are woven into a narrative called me, which becomes the reference point for success and failure, pride and shame. Yet this sense of self is not constant. In moments of deep focus, creativity, or stillness, the I fades. Action continues. Awareness remains. Life functions perfectly well without self-consciousness, so where is the self? The ego is not a thing, it is a process. A pattern of thought referencing past and future and calling it identity. Because this process is continuous, it feels solid. But continuity is not substance. Like a wave on the ocean, the self appears distinct yet has no independent existence. When examined closely, it dissolves it into thoughts, sensations, and emotions arising in awareness. This chapter does not ask you to destroy the ego. That only strengthens it. Instead, you are invited to inquire. Right now, where is the self? In the body? In the head? Or is it an idea appearing in thought? As this inquiry deepens, the I loosens. It becomes a functional label rather than a fixed identity. Emotional reactions soften. Fear and defensiveness lose their grip. You still care, but without being consumed. When a strong emotion arises, ask not why is this happening to me, but who is this happening to? Look for an actual entity, not an answer in words. Sensations may appear. Thoughts may arise. But can a separate self be found? What remains is not emptiness, but openness, space in which life moves freely. You are not losing yourself. You are discovering that you were never limited to the story you believed yourself to be. Chapter 4. Presence is not a practice. By the time most people encounter spirituality or self-improvement, they have already mastered one habit: effort. If something isn't working, try harder. If peace feels distant, apply discipline. While effort is useful for learning skills and navigating life, it quietly becomes an obstacle when turned toward awakening. This chapter challenges a deeply ingrained assumption that presence must be practiced, earned, or maintained. Many teachings unintentionally reinforce this belief by offering techniques meant to produce a future state called presence. You are encouraged to focus harder, control the mind, or discipline attention. While these methods may calm the nervous system temporarily, they often strengthen the idea that presence is not already here. But notice something simple. To practice presence, you must already be present. You cannot step outside of awareness to reach it. Every effort you make appears within presence itself. This means presence is not the result of practice, it is the ground in which all practice occurs. The issue is not effort, but effort aimed at becoming what you already are. When effort is used to improve a skill, it works. When it is used to escape the present moment, it creates tension. You begin measuring yourself against an ideal. Am I present enough? Am I doing this right? Presence reveals itself not through control, but through relaxation. Not passivity, but the softening of the inner struggle to be somewhere else. When resistance loosens, presence naturally shines, quiet, open, and uncomplicated. This is why moments of presence often appear unexpectedly, while walking, laughing, listening to music, or sitting quietly. There is no one trying to be present. Experience simply unfolds. Presence does not exclude thoughts, emotions, or restlessness. It includes all of it. Even effort is known. Even distraction is known. That knowing is presence. In this chapter, you are invited to notice where effort hides, not to remove it, but to see it. Awareness does not need effort to disappear in order to be aware. There is nothing to maintain, nothing to perfect. Presence is already functioning effortlessly. Hearing these words, breathing this breath, the only practice, if it can be called that, is noticing what remains. An effort relaxes, and in that noticing, it becomes clear, you were never absent from presence. You were only trying too hard to reach it. Chapter 5. Emotional Liberation. One of the most common fears on the spiritual path is the fear of emotion. There is a belief, often unconscious, that awakening should eliminate difficult feelings. That peace should replace anger, clarity should erase fear, and understanding should end sadness. When emotions continue to rise, they are often taken as signs of failure. This chapter dissolves that misunderstanding. Emotions are not obstacles to enlightenment. They are natural expressions of life moving through the body. Joy, grief, anxiety, love, and anger are temporary patterns of sensation, feeling, and thought. They become a problem only when they are resisted or turned into identity. Suffering begins when an emotion is met with a story. This shouldn't be here. I shouldn't feel this way. Something is wrong with me. In that moment, emotion becomes personal. The self tightens around it, and what could have moved freely becomes stuck. Emotional liberation does not mean controlling or eliminating feelings. It means allowing them without becoming them. When emotions are met without resistance, they behave differently. Sensations arise: tightness, warmth, heaviness, vibration. Thoughts may comment. But if the emotion is allowed to be fully felt, without justification or suppression, it naturally changes. Like a wave, it rises and falls. Resistance interrupts this process. Many people learn it early that certain emotions were unacceptable. Over time, these emotions were pushed down, creating chronic tension or numbness. Awakening does not bypass this, it brings it into awareness so it can release. Presence does not demand positivity. It invites honesty. When emotions are allowed without judgment, they lose their power to define you. Anger is no longer who you are, it is something appearing. Anxiety is no longer your identity, it is energy moving through awareness. This shift changes everything. Enlightenment does not remove emotion, it frees emotion from ownership. Without a central me claiming it, feelings may still be intense, but they pass more quickly and inform action more clearly. In this chapter, you are invited to experiment. When emotion arises, instead of asking how to get rid of it, ask whether it can be allowed. Feel it in the body. Let thoughts come and go. Awareness can hold far more than the mind expects. When emotions are no longer feared, life becomes more alive. Compassion deepens. Courage grows. You respond rather than defend. Emotional liberation is not about becoming unshakable. It is about becoming unguarded, open enough to feel fully, and free enough to let feelings pass without building a self around them. Chapter 6. The End of Seeking. Most people live in a subtle state of searching. Even when life feels good, there is often an undercurrent suggesting that something is missing, that fulfillment, peace, or awakening lies just beyond reach. This chapter brings that search to rest. Seeking is built on separation. To seek peace or enlightenment is to assume it exists somewhere outside your current experience. The message beneath seeking is simple. This moment is not enough. But what if it is? The end of seeking begins with recognizing that what you are looking for is already present, not as an idea or future state, but as awareness itself. This is the shift from chasing to noticing, from striving to resting, from becoming to being. Teachers, books, and practices can point toward this recognition, but they can also keep the mind busy searching. The paradox is that guidance is helpful until it becomes another object of pursuit. The search ends not by finding the perfect teaching, but by seeing that the seeker itself is unnecessary. A simple inquiry reveals this. What am I actually seeking? Often, beneath every goal or desire, the answer is the same: peace, wholeness, or ease. And that is already present as awareness, quietly holding this moment. When seeking ends, something remarkable happens. Action continues, but it is no longer driven by lack. Decisions arise without obsession over outcomes. Relationships are experienced without grasping. Life is met directly, rather than through anxiety or anticipation. Desires may still rise, but they no longer come from a need to fill a void. They arise naturally, from clarity rather than insecurity. Energy once spent chasing becomes available for creativity, connection, and intelligent response. The end of seeking is not a permanent state or final destination. It is the recognition that searching is optional, that fulfillment is not waiting somewhere else, that the ground you have been standing on all along is complete. As this chapter unfolds, notice the quiet beneath the urge for something more. Feel the subtle relief of not needing to get anywhere. Recognize that in this moment, the search is already loosening, and when that recognition lands even briefly, life opens effortlessly. No longer chasing, no longer grasping, just here, alive, present, and free. Chapter 7. Living without a psychological center. One of the most profound shifts in awakening is the loosening of the psychological center, the sense of a me that constantly interprets, controls, and defends experience. For most of life, this center acts as the hub around which thoughts, emotions, and decisions revolve. This chapter explores what happens when that hub is no longer in charge. Living without a psychological center does not mean becoming passive or detached. In fact, life often becomes more vivid and responsive. Action arises naturally from clarity rather than fear, egoic desire, or the need for approval. There is less internal narration claiming ownership over every decision. Life moves, and you move with it. Much of daily stress comes from the self trying to manage outcomes. I need this. I must avoid that. I should be different. These thoughts are meant to protect identity, but they also create tension. When the psychological center loosens, the pressure to control, fix, or prove dissolves. Choices are guided by reality, not by a fragile sense of me. Relationships change deeply here. Without constant self-reference, communication becomes more honest and less reactive. Projection decreases. Listening deepens. You no longer relate in order to protect identity, because identity is no longer at the center. Decision-making simplifies as well. Without inner conflict fueled by fear or desire, options are evaluated based on clarity and practicality. Action still happens, but without attachment to outcomes. You engage fully, yet success or failure no longer defines you. Motivation shifts dramatically. You are no longer driven by insecurity or the need to reinforce a self-image. Motivation arises organically from the moment itself. You act because something needs to be done, because energy moves naturally, because clarity is present. Emotions and challenges still rise, but they are no longer filtered through me versus life. They are met directly, without unnecessary resistance. Life feels lighter, more immediate, and more fluid. This chapter invites you to notice how often experience is filtered through self-reference. Simply observing these patterns begins their loosening. Living without a psychological center is not a goal, it is the discovery of a freedom that was always available beneath mental noise. Life moves through you, not because of you, and in that realization, effort gives way to ease. Chapter 8. Enlightenment and the Body. Awakening is often approached as a mental pursuit through insight, reflection, and inquiry, while the body is overlooked or treated as secondary. Yet the body is not separate from consciousness. It is one of the most direct doorways into presence. This chapter explores enlightenment as a fully embodied experience. The body carries the imprint of thought and emotion. Tension, posture, and habitual holding often reflect fear, resistance, or identity. When awareness stays only in the mind, these layers remain unseen. Bringing attention to the body allows realization to become grounded, integrated, and alive. Embodiment is not a practice to perfect. It is a willingness to feel what is already here. Sensations, the weight of the body, the movement of breath, subtle currents of energy are not distractions. They are direct expressions of life. Old tension or trauma may surface as awareness deepens. This is natural. The key is not to force release, but to notice sensation with curiosity and compassion. Awareness itself allows the body to soften in its own time. When attention rests in the body, thought loses its dominance. The mind continues, but it no longer runs the show. Sensation provides a stable ground beneath mental movement, allowing clearer, calmer engagement with life. Even small moments of body awareness, standing, walking, breathing, can anchor presence immediately. Movement becomes lighter. Energy more balanced. Presence becomes tangible. Embodied awakening integrates insight with daily life. Emotions move more freely. Decisions become intuitive. Interaction feels more authentic. Enlightenment is no longer abstracted, is lived through muscles, breath, and heartbeat. The body is not a limitation. It is a channel. When recognized as such, freedom is felt directly, moment by moment. You are not just observing life, you are life, fully alive and embodied. Chapter 9. Ordinary life as the highest teaching. A common misconception is that awakening requires extraordinary conditions, silence, retreat, or dramatic experiences. This chapter reveals a simpler truth. Ordinary life is the highest teaching. Everyday moments, working, cleaning, waiting, relating, are not distractions from awakening. They are the very ground in which it unfolds. Presence does not require special circumstances, it requires attention. This understanding dissolves spiritual hierarchy. There is nothing inferior about the mundane. Washing dishes with awareness is as profound as deep meditation. Ordinary activity, met without resistance, reveals clarity more reliably in chasing peak experiences. Difficulty is especially instructive. Boredom, conflict, repetition, and discomfort expose habitual reactions and attachments. These moments offer repeated invitations to notice where resistance arises and where presence can return. Nothing needs to change for freedom to appear. Life as it is, imperfect and unpredictable, is sufficient. Awakening is not escaping reality, but meeting it fully. When insight is lived through daily activity, it becomes integrated rather than isolated. Presence informs how you work, relate, and respond. Enlightenment stops being a separate state and becomes inseparable from life itself. Motivation shifts as well. You no longer chase exceptional experiences. Energy flows naturally into participation. Tasks are done because attention is present, not because of obligation or avoidance. This chapter invites you to experiment with ordinary moments. Notice sensation, sound, thought, and emotion during daily activities. Simple noticing transforms routine life into living insight. You do not need to leave the world to awaken. Life itself provides everything required. In embracing the ordinary, the extraordinary reveals itself quietly, immediately, and always here. Chapter 10. There is nothing left to master. At the end of this journey, a paradox appears. There is nothing left to master. Enlightenment is not an achievement, possession, or final state. It cannot be owned or perfected. And in seeing this, a deep freedom emerges. Much of life's striving is built on the belief that something is missing. You have tried to fix, improve, or acquire in order to feel complete. Yet what you truly are, open awareness, has never been absent. The search was never about gaining something, but about realizing nothing was missing. This chapter invites the release of the final illusions, control, ownership, and the idea that awakening can be managed. No method can contain awareness. Enlightenment is recognition, not attainment. When this is seen, motivation transforms. Action rises from clarity rather than lack. You work, create, and relate not to prove worth, but because life naturally expresses itself. Effort becomes intelligent and unforced. Daily life reflects this understanding through ease and openness. Challenges are met without panic. Emotions are felt without identity. Decisions arise intuitively. Relationships become freer. Even teaching or sharing shifts here. You no longer speak from authority, but from simplicity pointing to what is already present. This chapter closes by inviting you to rest in what is. Notice body, breath, thought, and sensation. See that awareness holds all of it effortlessly. Even the idea of a self needing awakening dissolves. There is nothing to fix, nothing to gain, nothing to master, and in that recognition, life opens fully simple, effortless, and free. Conclusion: awakening into life, this journey has never been about becoming someone else or reaching a distant state. It has been about recognizing what is already present, the awareness that witnesses thought, the openness that holds emotion, the freedom beneath striving. True transformation occurs, an effort relaxes, and attention rests in what is. Motivation becomes natural. Life feels less fragmented and more whole. Even ordinary moments become alive with clarity and meaning. These teachings are not instructions for getting somewhere, they are invitations to notice and allow. Presence is not a skill. Emotions are not obstacles. The self is not something too perfect. Everything has pointed back to a simple truth: freedom was never missing. As you move forward, remember that awakening does not require rearranging your life. There is no final achievement, no perfect state. What matters is noticing, meeting life directly, moment by moment. The journey ends where it began, here, now, awake and alive, and in that recognition, life itself becomes the teacher, the freedom, and the joy, exactly as it is.